Hi guys, in the spotlight next we have ASUS with their new Strix Z270F Gaming. Now it was on the X99 chipset that we saw the ROG team introduce the Strix series of motherboards, and that was a bit of a clue as to what would come in the mainstream segment with the new Z270 chipset. So what you can expect from the Strix lineup of boards is a slice of the trademark ROG features, but they will sit at the bottom end, just underneath the Maximus boards in terms of the performance range. As a new addition, the F and indeed the other Strix boards brings a new style to the ROG Arena with a decidedly appealing monochrome design. Overall, the board with all its features should satisfy most users' needs. Now, pricing is going to be available on January 5th, so we're only actually allowed to give you a bit of an estimate right now, guys. But you should expect Z270F here to arrive with a price tag of $175 in the UK and then in the US around $200. So that will place our Strix board there at a mid-range type of position against other boards out there. And there is going to be a lot of competition at this price point. So can this board pull through? Well, that's what we're going to be establishing today. Okay, well we're going to start by having a look at the packaging for our Strix board. So this is the box that it arrives in. As you can see, that is the front there. If we just spin this round, you can see on the back we have the tech spec for this board and some of the special features that it arrives with, all of which we're going to have a look at in a moment. Now inside the box, first of all, we have the motherboard here in this tray and the anti-static bag. Now we have the bundled accessories. So first of all, on the right hand side we have the driver CD. Now again, we're dealing with CDs here. Would have been better to have USB, but anyway, nevertheless, that has all your software, utilities, drivers and all that good stuff. Then we have the user guide, which you're going to refer to if you need any technical assistance, and it obviously has the walkthrough for things like RAID. We have the quick start guide to get up and running in a quick amount of time. We've got this coupon here, which is a great little idea, 20% off for your modded cables. Go online and you use the code on the back of that. We have two lots of stickers. First of all, we have the ones for your storage to label up any of your cables, and then we have these Strix stickers which you can I suppose stick on your chassis and things like that. And then we have a coaster. The rest of the stuff, this is more of your technical stuff here. We have the rear I/O shield, which has the cushion on the back. CPU installation tool for getting a bit of a guide for installing your CPU if you need that. We've got the SATA cables, just get the other one there. There are 4 SATA cables there. We have the fixed SLI bridge for multiple graphics cards. Extension cable for your RGB strips, LED strips. We've got the mounting screws there for M.2, and we have the screws also for your 3D printing, which we're going to have a look at very soon. Okay, so here is our Strix Z270F Gaming with its understated design. So if the aim of the game is to achieve a minimalist style, then you can't go far wrong with this monochrome theme. Casting an eye over the board, we have a matte PCB with grey interlace. There are black ports and lanes, and the heat sinks look stunning in a gunmetal finish. But if you are looking to add a bit of colour, then we do have some RGB LEDs, which we'll look at later on. For those wanting to know the size of this board, it does indeed conform to the ATX form factor, so it will fit inside most computer cases. So it's now time to go over the finer details of our Strix Z270F, and we're going to start at the CPU socket. So the socket is LGA 1151, and that is designed for Intel's 7th generation of core processors, aka Kaby Lake. But if you do have a Skylake chip, then this CPU will also work just fine with this board. Now in terms of the power delivery, we have a semi 8-phase design for the CPU and then another 2 for the integrated GPU, all of which is controlled by Digi+. Positioned around the socket and the rest of the board, we have 10K black caps which offer longer life than the standard. Covering the MOSFETs, we have a dual heatsink design which has a lovely gunmetal finish, and both of those heatsinks, by the way, are not connected. Behind the top heatsink we have the CPU power, which is an 8-pin socket. Now in terms of the headers, there are 2 CPU fan headers next to the upper heatsink, 2 chassis headers on the side and bottom edge, and then 2 additional headers. One is for water pumps that is capable of delivering 1 amp of current, while the other is a designated high amp header supporting 3 amps for PWM, typically used for overclocking. And you can always increase this by using EXT fan with the ASUS fan extension card. Moving on to the memory, there are 4 slots here, and unlike other boards, this one here does not have steel reinforcement, but we do have support for dual channel DDR4 up to 64 gig, up to 3866 MHz, and XMP2 is available as well. Around the memory, we also have some extra features which should come in handy. So first of all, we have an RGB header, and there are actually 2 of these. The other one is located on the bottom edge of the board. Both of these headers allow you to connect up LED strips and can be controlled using the Aura software, and later on we'll check out this software. We also have a set of post-state LEDs, which highlights a problem on boot up with either your CPU, your DRAM, VGA or a boot device. And then we have this screw hole here, which is designed to be a 3D mount. The idea behind this is that you can go away, design a 3-dimensional object, have it printed using a 3D printer, and then attach it to the board. This is certainly the first occasion we've seen anything like this, and whether it'll catch on or not is another matter altogether. Now, the usual place to find your USB 3 header is by the 24-pin ATX, but the ROG team has positioned this port on the bottom edge instead. And some brands are actually making the move to USB 3.1, but our Strix board opts for USB 3, and it features just a single port. Next up, we have the storage, which includes the following. We have 6 SATA 36G ports for any SATA based devices, and then we have 2 M.2 slots, which are Intel Optane memory ready and utilize PCI Express Gen 3 X4. One is located in the bottom corner of the board, and the other is at the top of the PCI Express stack. Having 2 of those also means that you can RAID 0 for super fast storage transfer rates. And so there are no U.2 ports on our Strix board, and even on the higher end ROG boards, this is omitted, and so it looks as though ASUS are steering away from this standard. Behind the SATA ports, we have the Intel Z270 chip with a large heatsink placed over it. And that gunmetal heatsink has the metallic ROG emblem, but surprisingly has no LEDs. Okay, next we have our PCI Express section, which involves triple PCI Express 3.0 X16s, and 4 PCI Express 3.0 X1s. And the modes for each of those X16s are 16, 8 and 4. So if you are planning to use just one graphics card, then the best one to use is that top X16, and then adding in an extra card will mean that the mode will drop to either 8 or 4. And along the outer edge of those 2 upper X16s, we have some metal reinforcement to give some extra protection for heavy graphics cards. Running down that inside edge, next to the PCI Express, we have the audio solution, which is the renowned Supreme FX. And so the codec behind this is Realtek's new ALC1220A, which brings with it some enhanced SNR line-in and line-out capabilities with up to 120 decibel SNR. All of the components are isolated to prevent interference, and these components include dual OP amps, Depop MOSFET, Nichicon audiophile grade caps, and separated left and right channels. And so what you're getting is a very competitive audio solution, which we've already tested out, and it sounds superb. Okay, and lastly we arrive at the rear I/O section, which consists of the following: 2 USB 3.1 Type-C and Type-A ports, a DVI port with DisplayPort and HDMI underneath, PS2 keyboard mouse, 4 USB 3 ports, a gigabit LAN which is powered by the Intel i219 controller, and then all of the audio ports with optical out. And so nothing out of the ordinary there. One thing to note though is that our LAN does come with anti-surge protection, which reduces transmission loss should you get affected by lightning. Now, before we bring our thoughts to a close, we'll have a look at the lighting on our Strix board. And so this is the Aura software, which allows you to tweak the colours and the animation effects on your board. And for those with other ASUS products which use Aura lighting, you can sync up the LEDs for a consistent design. And of course, if you want to add in lighting strips, this is also the place where you'd control this type of configuration too. And so although our Strix board has very few LEDs compared to other boards out there, here is a demo of how this looks. Okay, and that is the new Strix Z270F Gaming. And so far, out of all these Z270 boards that we've been reviewing, this one here is probably up there as one of the favourites in terms of the physical design. You know, there's sharp, aggressive looking heat sinks, the matte PCB, the interlacing stretching across the board are just brilliant. It follows an understated scheme but still gets away with being extremely pleasing on the eye. Now, while there are a lot of great things to talk about with the ROG exclusive features which you get courtesy there of the software, there does appear to be something missing from this board. Truly, it might not be regarded as one of ROG's high-end offerings, but if you look over the layout, there are actually very few things to kind of diversify this board from others on the market. With the Z270 chipset, brands are fairly restricted to what they can offer, but from ROG we expect something to kind of draw you in. You know, we've seen on a competitor's board M.2 cooling, for example, and that is something which helps to diversify. However, what we do have is the option there to install the customized three-dimensional objects on the 3D mount on our Strix board, but that really is only going to appeal to a niche. But one thing which this board does shy away from, which is perhaps a good reason, is the gimmicks. You know, I know many of you guys regard the memory, the heatsink and the PCI Express LEDs as looking quite cheap, and this board only has really the LED strip there on the rear I/O. And going for standard memory over the steel reinforced type also highlights to us that this philosophy behind such an idea is perhaps, again, a gimmick. And so in terms of the features and what we do get is you know, a good selection of storage, including dual M.2s. We have the twin RGB headers there, one at the bottom, one at the top, and a powerful audio solution there from Supreme FX. Not to mention our Strix board is a solid performer when you put it up against rival Z270 boards. We managed to squeeze 4.9 out of our 7700K with very little effort and very little voltage, proving, you know, how capable that power delivery system really is. And so for more details on that overclock and all the benchmarks from this board, be sure to check out our full review, which is going to be on the screen and in the description very soon. Thanks to you guys for watching today. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next one.